Dobry, witamy Państwa bardzo serdecznie.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to welcome you all to the conference dedicated to presentation of the consolidated financial results for the fourth quarter and for the whole year 2021. I would like to welcome all the journalists who joined us today, as well as those who are watching us online. We would also like to ask you to actively participate in the conference and ask questions. You can send us your questions to the media at lotosgroup.pl. Obviously, those of you who are present during the conference can ask questions personally. I would like to welcome Krzysztof Nowicki, Vice President of Lotos Group responsible for mergers and acquisitions, Łukasz Minut, Chief Financial Officer, and a warm welcome to Przemysław Krysicki, Director in the Investor Relations Unit. My name is Adam Kasprzyk and I'm Head of Communication Department. Now I would like to pass the voice to Krzysztof Nowicki. The floor is yours, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to present the financial results for 2021 and for the fourth quarter of 2021. However, before we move on to the details and before we talk you through the details of the results, we would like to mention about 2021 from the perspective of the Lotos Group, which definitely impacted the current situation, and also you will see and understand better our results. So 2021 was for our Lotos Group a year that was a particular year in the history of the group. In 2020, on 14th of July, the European Commission agreed and gave a conditional permission for the merger with PKN Orlen. The whole process, the merger process, was already communicated to you in 2021 on 12th of May. I believe we managed to define that it is going to be a merger finally with PGNiG. However, the circumstances that impacted the Lotos Group and the shape of the Lotos Group and actions undertaken by the group in 2021 were focusing mainly on the merger transaction. You definitely know that 2021 was also a year dedicated to separation of shares and creation of a refinery with Lotos SA and within Lotos Asphalt. This is a subsidiary, and it was also, we needed to obtain an agreement from the general shareholders meeting and transfer of the company parts of the shares to the asphalt, Lotos Asphalt. So this conditional agreement for the fulfillment of remedies which resulted from the decision of the European Commission and the agreement that was given by the European Commission was clear, and no resolutions were obtained or any remarks were made by the European Commission. We also started the hydrocracking project for base oils. This project is fulfilled within Lotos Group in Lotos Oil Company, and this company will be an integrated center for the hydrocracking of base oil. And as a result of merger of PKN Orlen and Lotos Group. Then 2021 was also dedicated to discussions, to talks, to meetings, and discussions about the future of the group in terms of safety, security, not in terms of economic security, but also in terms of energy security, but also in terms of social security and also responsible business, how to maintain the dialogue with the society as well, and how to discuss the future of the organization and of the whole group, and how it will impact the society, and also with trade unions. And therefore, for us, it is crucial to sign also agreements and reach agreement with the social, with the society as well. Two other important events which impacted the results, the financial results of the group, because you are definitely expect from us details. So macroeconomic situation and the environment impacted the results that were related to the COVID pandemic, COVID-19, and improvement of the results in comparison to 2020. We can see a significant improvement in the results. Well, we would kindly ask you to look at the results from the perspective of the strategic assumptions that we prepared in 2017. This is a strategic perspective for 2017-2022, which assumed certain parameters to be fulfilled by us in 2022 and 2021. That was 4.9 billion zloty, and EBITDA fulfilled by the capital group, by the Lotos Group, 4.2 billion zlotys. So we assume that on average for 2017-2022 and 2017-2021, we are more or less on track according to the strategy. Well, it enables us to assess the results that we achieved as stable and assumed in the past. And at the same time, we can say that it's a very positive situation. And it also shows us that actions undertaken by us, that is, future merger with PKN Orlen, remedy actions undertaken by the group, has been defined properly, and the results of 2021, along with the fourth quarter, that we will discuss in a minute, are good. To be precise, and the details of the results will be presented in a minute by my colleagues. The result is 4.23 billion zlotys in terms of LIFO-based EBITDA. Large inflows from the operational activity. Our financial situation is considered as stable. Refinery kept its flexibility in 2021. We had a partial shutdown, maintenance shutdown. In 2022, this shutdown will be completed. We are in course of the maintenance shutdown in a refinery. So now I will ask Director Krysiak to take the floor.
Thank you very much for this introduction. And right now, the Director Krasicki. Let's move on to the slide number 4. Before we start with macroeconomic environment, let's start with the most important parameters for financial parameters. First, we're going to start with LIFO-based EBITDA, and what we have 4.2 billion zlotys in 2021. You can see the division of the refining, marketing and exploration and production. After a very weak 2020 because of the COVID situation, all the restrictions, it seems that our company is back on track.
oczekiwań naszych z
We're
punktu
back to
widzenia,
normal,
tak jak
and
było
I
to już
believe
wspomniane, z
that
punktu
when we
widzenia
talk about
realizacji
our
naszej strategii.
expectations and our strategy,
Przerób ropy
everything seems
naftowej,
to be fine.
prawy
And
górny
when it comes to crude
graf,
oil
też
throughput, we can
Państwo
see it
widzą,
in the
że
right upper
w
corner.
roku
It is
2020
visible that in
był
2020
troszeczkę niższy niż w roku
we
2019.
had
To jest
a
właśnie
lower
efekt
result.
tych
It was a
wszystkich
little bit lower
ograniczeń i
than in
zmniejszonej
2019.
produkcji
It was a result of all the
związanej właśnie
restrictions
z
related
rokiem
to
pandemii.
the pandemic
W
situation.
2021
In 2021,
produkcja jest minimalnie niższa
the
i
production
wynika ona
is
właśnie z
slightly lower,
rozpoczętego
and
w
it is related
2021 roku, na
to the
początku
fact
roku
that at
remontu
the beginning of 2021, we
częściowego,
started the
który jest kontynuowany
maintenance work.
dokładnie w tej chwili.
And right now, it
Przepływy
is being
operacyjne
undertaken. When it comes to
też
our
stabilne przez
operating cash
ostatnie
flow,
lata
it is
od
still
2019
stable.
roku.
In
2020
2019
2021
and in
praktycznie na podobnym
2020,
poziomie,
2021,
3 miliardy złotych.
one similar level.
Pokazują właśnie tą stabilność
It
związaną z
shows
sytuacją
the stability
płynnościową i
of
oczywiście
our
dają
cash
szansę
flow.
spółce na bezpieczne
And it
prowadzenie
means that our
działalności
company
operacyjnej
can
i
work
inwestycyjnej.
in
Dzienne
stable
wydobycie
conditions.
węglowodorów,
When it comes to our daily
też
hydrocarbons
delikatny spadek
production, we
15%
can
między
see
rokiem
a slight
2021
drop
a
when we
rokiem
compare 2020 and
2020.
2021.
Jeszcze o tym później wspomnimy
And later on,
w
we'll come
trakcie
back
omawiania
to
segmentów.
this
Dotyczy to również takich postojów
It is
remontowych,
related to
konserwacyjnych
maintenance
na złożach
shutdowns that we
norweskich,
had
Sleipner
in
i
Norwegian
Urbe.
fields.
I poprosiłbym o kolejny slajd.
Let's move on to the next
I
slide.
na kolejnym slajdzie mają Państwo wskaźniki
You can see
za czwarty kwartał, trzeci kwartał
the
roku
fourth quarter
2021
of
i porównanie do
2021 and
czwartego
a
kwartału
comparison to the same
2020
quarter of
i też
2020.
no tutaj znowu widać tą różnicę pomiędzy
We
właśnie
can
tym
see the difference
słabym rokiem
between
2020
the
i
week
aktualnym.
2020 and the
1,5 miliarda
2021.
złotych EBITDA
We have
w czwartym
1.5
kwartale
billion
w podziale
LIFO-based EBITDA in the fourth quarter, and we have over 900 millions in the exploration and production segment, and the 500 in the exploration and production segment. When it comes to the throughput of crude oil in Gdańsk, there are no huge differences. It's related to the maintenance shutdown. This shutdown started at the beginning of the last year, and it was very significant in the first quarters. When it comes to the last quarter of last year, the production was similar. Let's have a look at the bottom left corner. We have our net debt versus LIFO-based EBITDA. We can see a huge difference, almost zero level. We only have the liabilities related to our lease contracts. This drop is related to the fact that in 2021, our net debt was minimalized, and additionally, we managed to achieve this high LIFO-based EBITDA. When it comes to daily hydrocarbons production, in the third and the fourth quarter of 2021, the level was at 16,000 barrels per day. And it's just slightly lower by 10% when it compared to the similar period of 2020. The reason behind that is again the same: maintenance shutdowns. Now I would like to give the floor to the Director Minute. I would like to start with macroeconomic environment. It has been mentioned before, all our actions that we fulfilled in 2021, so maintenance shutdowns, reorganizing our assets within our Lotos Group, and the beginning of production in IME field, starting with HBO project, everything concludes into the fact that we can forget about those changes. And I mean leading, managing the business in the pandemic situation. The first quarters of the last year, we needed to function in that kind of environment. It was a very dynamic environment. when we observed the prices of main products and also limitations related to how our work was organized. We managed to sum this up when we had a press conference after the first and the second quarter. It seems that the first quarter of 2021 leads to a new beginning. So we can forget about the restrictions, and we have this post-pandemic season. And when we have a look at the macroeconomic situation, we say that we've just finished this pandemic environment, and right now we have a very volatile prices of the natural gas. We can see that on the slide. After the third quarter of 2021, we estimated that we have circumstances that will be with us till the half of 2022. And that forecast is still true. Obviously, the perspectives have changed a little bit. The prices of the natural gas, we started at the level in 2020, and we talked about NBP index. It was $9 per barrel, and in the fourth quarter of 2021, we achieved high levels of almost $300 per barrel. In the period when the whole process is so costly, when we talk about our operations, we need to optimize the use of such material, and we needed to search for some alternatives. And this is, in our exploration segment, was done, and obviously we managed to do that successfully. This is only one of the pieces of information that I'd like to share with you. When it comes to exploration and production, we are searching for new possibilities. When we observe the prices of the natural gas, it transfers naturally to the profitability of our profits. It is visible in the production of hydrocarbons and natural gas, and normally it is done by the license that we have on Norwegian continental shelf. I believe that this is something that can sum up the quarter number 4 of 2021, and it is also important for the future of our company. Now, moving on to the macroeconomic environment that we can observe versus our strategic assumptions. We've mentioned today that we monitor our assumptions that we created in 2016 when we created our strategy. And here we can see two perspectives. On the left-hand side, you can see the prices of the crude oil and also natural gas, and this is a crucial information for our exploration. When it comes to crude oil production, the variation is really small. In 2016, it was a minimal variation, so it doesn't cause any troubles when it comes to our estimations. Unfortunately, when it comes to natural gas and the prices of natural gas, the prices doubled versus our strategic assumptions. In 2016, we believe that the estimations that showed $42 per barrel, we thought that it was not really possible and too optimistic when it comes to the prices. When you have a look at the right side of the slide, we have a refining segment. When we look at the product cracks, when it comes to the key products, when we see gasoline, the price is lower than our strategic assumptions. When it comes to average crack is $70 per ton, so this is at a half of what we estimated in our strategy. When it comes to fuels, it's less painful. It's 26%. It was partially compensated by higher cracks of heavy fuels, so heavy fuel oil, and it was at a level of 30%. Other macroeconomic factors, so exchange rate. In the fourth quarter, we observed the fact that Polish zloty weakened. And we observed various external factors that influenced that situation. In the third quarter, we had 10 groszy weakening of the exchange rate, and it caused the fact that dollar margins are higher right now. When we look at the three diagrams that we have on the slide, they are strictly connected. They are connected. This is something that I've mentioned before. Third and the fourth quarter of 2021, so ending of the pandemic and coming back to greater consumption when we talk about diesels and also when we talk about motor fuels. This means that we are in recovery. Also, GDP is increasing. It means that our production activity and our communication is greater. One element that I would like to pay your attention to is the fact that in the fourth quarter of 2021, Poland decided and started to import fuels, and this element is also crucial when it comes to our results. Closing that part and summing this up, I would like to talk a little bit about the prices and compare it to other periods. When we talk about the last quarter of 2021, we need to pay attention to the increase of the prices of the natural gas in the fourth quarter of 2021. We have $170 on average BOE. And I would like to add the first slide that I started with. We estimated that the highs would be $350. When we want to refer results to middle distillates, at the moment, quarter three, quarter four seems to be coming back to the normal level. We have $160 and $130 per ton in the fourth quarter. We can compare those levels to the levels we observed before the pandemic. When we talk about crude oil crack spreads, it's not as good because it is responsible for the 60% of our refining production, so I believe this is a very important factor. And we're looking for improving those circumstances. And I believe that this is summing up the macroeconomic environment. Right now, we will move on to the exploration and production.
Thank you very much. Now we will I'll talk you through our segments. That is exploration and production, refining and marketing. Now we start with exploration and production. The clean EBITDA for 2021 above 1 billion zlotys, as Director Minut said. Last quotations of the crude oil and natural gas helped us to achieve such results. In the fourth quarter of 2021, clean EBITDA reached the level of 583 million. If we talk about exploration of hydrocarbons in the fourth quarter, it amounted to above 16,000 barrels a day. On average, it was a bit higher, 17.3 thousand barrels of equivalent of crude oil. And as I have already said, it also resulted from the maintenance shutdown, which was communicated to you during the last year in second quarter. It was also on Ungard field. We had temporary difficulties, however, we recovered. In terms of new projects, in 2021, we activated IME field. At the end of the last year of the 2021, first barrels of crude oil were transported to the Rotterdam port. It is 12.5 million barrels, this field. It constitutes of crude oil in 100%, and was activated and opened on the 25th of October 2021. The exploration target exploration will amount to 5,000 BOE for the period of 5 years. In terms of other projects and topics, with a new investment, NOAKA project, in 2021 we harmonized shares. Well, maybe I'll explain it. We have many little fields in the NOAKA project, and LOTOS Group was involved in all of these projects, all of these fields, to a certain extent, and we finally managed to harmonize the shares in these fields. And we also selected a concept of utilization of this field. In terms of production, we recorded a drop in 2P reserves to 69 at the end of December 2021, which results from a typical exploitation process and depletion, natural depletion of these fields. We have already mentioned several times strategic assumptions. Well, 69.2 million of BOE is already exceeding our strategic assumptions that we made in 2017. And these were assumptions made for the years 2017-2021. Next slide, this is producing assets. On the left-hand side, these are Polish assets, B8, B3. Last year, we reported increase of exploration and production. Well, the average cost is $33 for BOE. Other fields in the right side of the slide, these are Norwegian fields, and apart from temporary difficulties with the Utgard field, other fields are operating according to our assumptions. And for the first time, we have on our slide IME field. So the reserves amount to 12.5 million of BOE, and last year the production amounted to 0.3 thousand of BOE a day. However, as I have mentioned, according to the plans and forecasts, it will be increased up to 5,000 barrels a day. And slight, also a Lithuanian field, slight involvement, only 500 barrels a day.
Tak, i na tym slajdzie.
Yes. Next slide, please. On slide 14, you can see overall production figures divided into quarters and comparison of fourth and third quarter, and also comparison year over year to fourth quarter 2020. And we reported a drop by 10% in corresponding periods between fourth quarter 2021 and fourth quarter of 2020. As you can see, it is split in half, in fact, between gas and oil. So we are producing about 50% of oil and 50% of gas. Overall, production dropped by 15%, and contribution of 3 fields, Norway 64% contributes in this exploration, overall exploration, Poland 33%, and Lithuania 3%. And product mix structure, it's 46% for gas, natural gas, and 54% for crude oil. Now we move on to the current situation and how the situation evolved from the end of 2020 until today. And you can see the total recoverable reserves and the usage of how we use the fields. As you can see, in Norway, production amounted 4 million of equivalent, in Poland above 2 million, and Lithuania 200,000. And now we move on to the summary of the annual operating results of the whole segment. EBIT for 2020, 1.2 billion. Depreciation, 265. And EBITDA 2021, clean EBITDA, almost 1.5 billion. The most important for the cleaned EBITDA was reverse write-off. As you can see, one-off event in 2021 amounting to 255. And it was caused by the prices of the crude oil. So we had to reverse the write-offs that we had earlier. You can see it on the left down corner. Last year we had to create write-offs, and this year we had to reverse them on the amount of 255 million zlotys. So the clean EBITDA finally reached the level of, in 2021, 1,221 million zlotys. And similar snapshot regarding the quarterly operating results of this segment. EBIT 538 for the fourth quarter of 2021, depreciation of 81, and one-off event of 36, which translates into clean EBITDA at the level of 583. And I'd like to ask you to move on to the next slide, and refining and marketing segment, which largely contributed to our results. Clean EBITDA LIFO is at the level of 3 billion zlotys, which resulted from the cracks on crucial products, key products, and also even despite the maintenance shutdown. So the overall efficiency of the refinery was kept at a very high level. In fourth quarter 2021, clean EBITDA LIFO reached the level of 905 million zlotys. And from the crucial events that happened in 2021 and in the fourth quarter, thanks to the decision of the Grupa LOTOS extraordinary general meeting, an internal reorganization was carried out in this exploration and production in the refining and marketing segment. And as you know, this part of the organization was transferred to Lotos Asphalt. So in terms of other important events, it was signing an agreement for a new hydrocracking base oil project. We started project and design phase in 2021 with kinetics technology. In 2021, we will be continuing these works, and we'll be carrying out construction works. So the point is to sell high-quality base oils of second and third group. We plan to sell 400,000 tons. So the whole project should be finalized in 2025. Now, if we talk about retail, well, in fact, this is the only segment in which we observed drop in EBITDA, comparing it to the corresponding period, to 253 to this level. Well, it resulted from a very difficult situation within the retail segment and the necessity to adjust to our partners and to the circumstances. In terms of refinery capacity usage in 2021, I think we reached a very high level. We reached a level of 93. We have already reported this in the previous quarters, and it also resulted from the fact of the maintenance shutdown that was carried out. But I would also like to mention that in our surrounding, the capacity has never exceeded 90%, so I believe this is a very good result for us. And comparing a situation of Lotos Group to other competitors, so production of 11 million tons of refinery products. So refining model margin already includes this effort project, and it impacted the whole mechanics, the whole process of production of crude oil and our products, and it was based on this margin model.
As you probably know, we report this margin on our website, and if you want to check that, you can, of course, go to the website and see the results. The only comment that I'd like to make, and I believe it's quite important to mention, I would like to say that the refining model margin are not exactly the same as the refining margin that we achieve in different levels because of seasonal optimization of the work of the refinery. When it comes to the maintenance shutdown that we had in 2021, it started at the beginning of the year. Right now, we are at the next level, next phase of this maintenance shutdown, and we lowered the throughput by 7%, and it caused lowering of our financial result by 200 million zlotys. Let's move on to the next slide. What we can see here, we can see refining output structure. Probably we'll see it for the last time. The reason behind showing this slide was presenting our new investments. And when we compare the quarters in 2020 and 2021, we can see a substantial increase of production of the most important key middle distillates, and when we talk about diesel, and when we talk about naphtha or jet fuels, maybe jet fuels are not so important. And as you can see, the important increase in middle distillates. Let's move on to the next slide. We can see annual operating results of the segment. EBIT 2021 over 3.2 billion zlotys. And when we add appreciation, we have EBITDA at the level of 4 billion zloty. When we take one-offs into consideration, we have 209 million zloty. You can see this small graph at the bottom of the page. The main reason were differences in the exchange rates and write-offs related to some assets related to remedy actions. And when we have this LIFO effect, it gives the result of 3 billion zlotys of cleaned LIFO-based EBITDA. And the retail contribution is at the level of 205 million zloty. The next slide. Here we can see the details of the last quarter. We can see the contribution in the third and the fourth quarter of 2021. And as you can see, the third quarter we see 1.1 billion, and the fourth quarter over 1 billion of EBITDA. And what we can also see, we can see 907 and 905 million of cleaned LIFO-based EBITDA. The next slide. The final, last slide related to refining and marketing, we are presenting model refining margin again. The average result was $2.2 per barrel, and I would like to comment on that because the values of this model margin may not be exactly the same as the real values. At the end of 2021, we also presented the online results. We added additional information so that you can check that and understand the process. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to present the summary of our consolidated financial results. I would like to start with annual results. When we compare 2020 and 2021, it is not possible to compare them. However, we can see the summary of the values. When it comes to our operating results in Lotos Group, we had almost 4.5 billion. This means that these results can be somehow comparable to the prices of the crude oils. Then we have a LIFO effect in 2021. Then we can see also some elements that will lower cleaned EBITDA by 45 million zlotys. And we have two groups of various transactions that eliminate themselves. On one hand, in the first half of 2020, we had a reverse impairment situation. And this situation, post-pandemic stabilizing situation, gave us better perspectives in terms of estimated prices of crude oils and natural gas. And it was 255 million zlotys at the end of 2021, and the full amount was related to the write-offs in our Baltic fields. The second group of transactions is the write-offs related to disposal of some refining assets, and we have some logistics write-offs. And the second group was related to petrol stations. This is a very standard procedure that happens every year. Then we need to add depreciation, which is at the level of 1 billion zlotys in 2021, and we get cleaned EBITDA LIFO in 2021, which is at the level of 2,290,000 zlotys. When we talk about quarterly results, we cannot compare those two periods. It seems a little bit useless. LIFO-based EBITDA in 2021, in the fourth quarter, was at the level of almost 1 billion zlotys, was achieved by our operating activities. And it is clearly not influenced by depreciation. And right now, I believe that we can move on quickly to our operating cash flows and investments. When it comes to our cash flows in 2021, it seems that they are characterized by huge fluctuation. You could assume, because when we had a press conference after the third quarter of 2021, we informed that we had one-off transactions that caused some disturbance in the transactions. And right now we managed to optimize those transactions, and we reversed this in the fourth quarter. And yes, exactly, this is what happened, and we managed to balance the cash flows. We can say that the cash flow is stable, and the level is more or less 1 billion in the third and the fourth quarter. When it comes to capex, we have over 1 billion zlotys in 2021. a similar amount of capex in exploration and also refining and marketing segments were similar. And right now, the exploration segment is growing, so the investments will be higher there. We're observing huge, significant amount of money, amount of capex when it comes to HBO project. When it comes to our EBITDA and our capex related to that, this is not something visible that you can check. However, I need to say that we are fulfilling that project according to our strategy. I'd like to add that 2021 was also related to capex at level of 200 million zloty. When it comes to our debt, it has been mentioned at the beginning when we were going through key information. We observed this in the second and the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, we managed to lower our debt level. I believe that the main key information is the payoff of the debt related to EFRA project, and we managed to refinance that project within our capital group. And at the end of the fourth quarter of 2021, we don't have practically net debt. The only thing are on lease liabilities that we have. When it comes to the relation of the net debt versus our EBITDA, we have 0.7%. Our EBITDA is stable. The situation is stable. It means that we can function freely in these macroeconomic circumstances, and the factor that we're observing and the factor that we believe is the most important and that we observe is our net debt versus EBITDA LIFO, and we observed this at the level of 1.4 at the end of 2020. This year is at the level of 0.2. To sum this up, to sum those three diagrams, I would like to say that our situation is stable. I believe this slide sums up this part of the presentation. Right now, I would like to give the floor to the Mr. Kasprzyk.
Now I'd like to start the Q&A session. There are also journalists who are observing us online. We have received many questions via email, so we will try to answer all these questions also via our press office, maybe later on. And definitely we will answer all your questions. But there are also journalists here with us in person, so we will start with them. So let's get started. So we will try to ask questions here and also from the emails. Mr. Jakubik, please. Hello. I wanted to ask you about the maintenance shutdown of the refinery in Gdańsk, whether it is an occasion that could improve the throughput of oil that is not Russian oil, and what is the throughput of the Russian oil in the refinery in Gdańsk? And I also wanted to ask you about the investment in the Norwegian fields and for the amount of above 1 billion. Or could we expect in 2023 any solutions for the Baltic pipe when it will be ready? And I would also like to ask, unfortunately I forgot what I wanted to ask you. So you are saying about stable situation of the company, which suggests that remedy actions undertaken before the merger are grounded. And I wanted to ask you about the results of 2021, because you presented the conditions for the merger in January 2021, how the very concrete activities that you undertaken and conditions of the merger impacted your situation. Well, thank you. We will try to answer all your questions. So maybe I'll start with two first questions. So the maintenance shutdown, well, is aimed at continuation of safe usage of such refinery. We are not planning any particular investment. This is more or less maintenance shutdown and maintenance works, which will enable us to make use of this refinery in a very safe way. In terms of Russian oil, already for a couple of years, we are not making public information about a share of particular types of oil in our energy mix. However, we try to use our advantage in terms of location and significantly improve flexibility by means of the EFRA project, for instance. And in consequence, we are trying to search for different options emerging on the market. So we are verifying various types of crude oil, and we will try to improve it and diversify it. I would like to answer the question regarding exploration and production segment. So maybe I will sum up. So 300 million of investment capex in 2021. This is the amount that we are investing in the Norwegian continental shelf. However, you need to remember that a large part of this investment was regarded the Yme field. But in terms of Baltic pipe and the gas that will be transported via this pipe will not be significantly contributing to our situation, because this is a crude oil field and not natural gas field. And the fields in which we have shares on the Norwegian continental shelves, we contribute partially in crude oil and in natural gas. We are not expecting any significant increase of the import of the production. We are just observing what is happening. We are observing the natural depletion of these fields, and we see that it is at the level of 10–15%. So until 2023, we do not expect any acquisitions or any increase of investments in the Norwegian continental shelf. Only NOAKA project will be extended by us.
I would like to ask additionally what kind of volumes we have right now. We would need to check the detailed information. Thank you very much. I would like to ask you to repeat the question number 4, because I would like to understand the sense of the question. You're mentioning the stable results of 2021. You say that the merger conditions are sensible. I would like to ask right now how the merger transfers to the results this year, 2022, and why do we believe that this factor is positive? The moment where the investors publish remedy actions in the process of the European Commission that will allow the merger between PKN Orlen and Lotos, there is no schedule or timeline related to what has been published today. We would like to inform you that the publishing of the information related to remedy actions happened in January 2022. It was directly after the results of the third quarter of 2021 were published. And the procedure of evaluation of remedy actions that is done by investors is related to, let's say, estimations on how the 2021 whole year would be closed. That's why I let myself to express such evaluation. Before we have next question, let me read a question from Alexandra Helbin. What happens with IME field? The shutdown that happened in December, is it still ongoing? And when it comes to the supply of the crude oil comes from long-term contracts and other means, and from where the materials are delivered. So the first question, maybe Director Minute could answer. When it comes to the exploration and production segment, we informed about that. In December, we had some temporary problems with production and on that field. This field produced materials in the past, and right now the project is based on reopening the output. It was connected with some natural risks related to this process because it is being realized, done on a very deep levels. And it was not surprising that such events happened at this moment. We reacted in a very natural way. We have a tight cooperation with other operators on that field. This field, in a natural course of events, restarted its work after 2 weeks. Right now, we're opening additional wells, and the output right now is within our strategic assumptions. According to all the declarations, we believed that the output in 2021 won't be lower than 5,000 barrels per day. Let me repeat the second and third question. And when it comes to the supply of the crude oil, how can you divide the supply? Your own materials or other sources? Thank you very much for the question. I would like to reply. I would like to answer to the question first. Without revealing any details and giving you the proportion of the supply of materials and volumes, I would like to inform you that we take advantage of our close to the sea location. And I would like to say that, in fact, we are exploring every direction, every possible direction of the exploration on the market. Secondly, I would like to say that Lotos Group managed to fulfill at least 8 various directions of supply in 2021 to refinery in Gdańsk. Obviously, you can assume some major directions when we talk about global markets. And this way, I don't want to talk about details and reveal any secret information. Having in mind the next question related to the supply of the refinery in Gdańsk, we would like to pay your attention to the fact that we have right now maintenance shutdown. So right now, the discussion about the supply directions or the rules of the supply would be a little bit confusing. And if I would like to inform and reply to that question, I would like to say that we've been verifying the directions of supply since 2019, and it is related to the whole logistics and also economic situation. It is also related to the safety circumstances. We are aware of all those circumstances, and we made those decisions in 2020 within Lotos Group. We eliminated some norms, some contracts that were not beneficial for our company and were related for one of the most important direction of supplies. And I believe that we are keeping this trend. And as I said, we are exploring all the directions of supply. And as a proof that we as a Lotos Group can function in this critical moment, that we have the abilities to have the ability of the throughput of various types of fuels, we can say that in 2019 we took the advantage of our location, and in an optimal way we managed to function without all previous important directions. Looking into the parameters about our own output, and we understand it in a broad meaning, it's not only Lotos Group, but we need to have this broad perspective. So the ability to have this national supply of raw materials, this volume is up to 10%. And I would need to say that this is a lower volume when it comes to that parameter. And when it comes to this element of the supplies from the spot and term formula, in 2022, we will have supplies based on long-term contracts. Spot supply, we believe this kind of purchase is symbolic. And I believe this is the answer to the question.
To teraz może pytanie z sali.
Maybe another question, Marcin Markiewicz. Well, you are saying about and talking about long-term supplies. Are these long-term supplies about which you don't want to define what percentage of these supplies comes from Russia? Or are you planning to terminate any of these long-term supplies, or in 2 years' time, or in 1 year time? Well, this question refers with what will happen after the merger with PKN Orlen. You will have another shareholder of the refinery, and from what I understand, a certain part of the supplies, I don't know, up to 30%, will come from Saudi Aramco. This is first question, and I'll ask another question in a minute. Okay, so that's true. 2022, and making decisions regarding operating of long-term contracts, well, we have to be analyzed in view of certain perspectives. So merger definitely is to be included in our discussions. Long-term contracts signed by Lotos make it available to prolong these agreements with partners that are participating also in remedy actions. So we will be deciding about the directions of long-term contracts in the future, and it will result not from the agreement signed by Lotos SA, but with the partner that will be carrying out the remedy actions and Saudi Aramco. So the overtaking partner, overtaking company, will be deciding what will be the shape of long-term supplies and the energy mix. So it will be decided after the merger. But also referring to our own functioning of Lotos, well, I would like to stress that the Lotos Group, first of all, step by step, already in 2019, revealed the ability, feasibility to maintain its supply and the demand. So crude oil, in terms of crude oil, and Lotos Group in 2020 strategically decided about modification of its approach towards logistics of the supplies and the directions of the supplies of raw materials, and that was a part of preparations to the merger and also to the ability of diversifying the organization in the future. So none of the contracts that we have as the Lotos Group does not endanger in any way the operational functioning or diversification of our organization, or does not impact our future functioning. Thank you. I wanted to add another question. After the maintenance shutdown, are you going to buy on spot market Russian oil? Have you already made such a decision, or you haven't decided about it? Well, I would like to inform you that Lotos Group, well, in previous questions I have already mentioned about that purchases on the spot market are marginal in our activity, in our everyday activity. And therefore, this issue, from our perspective, is not any problem. So we will be carrying out the supplies based on our long-term contracts. Are you asking about spot market? Or are you asking about spot? You are asking about spot? No. The question was whether after the merger, are you going to carry out purchases on the spot market in terms of Russian oil? So the answer is, for today, we are carrying out transactions, spot transactions. Well, this is just a marginal part of our transactions. So we are ready to decide about our future, and we can decide that we are not going to do it. Another question? Welcome. I wanted to ask you, what is the amount of capex of the investment outlays? And the second question about the throughput output. What average daily output do you expect this year? I will try to answer both these questions. So capex, we summed up 2021. It was at the level of 1 billion zlotys, and the capital group of Lotos Group has already agreed plan for 2022. Our aspirations in terms of development are much larger than what we've done in what we did in 2021. So, well, in terms of plans and time schedule, we expect a postponement in terms of HBO investment in 2022. And we assume that HBO project will be fulfilled in 2022. We already prepared also development projects for 2022, you also reported that this impacts cash flow of our Norwegian company, and therefore our aspiration in terms of capex will be reaching more or less the level of 2 billion zlotys. And answering your second question regarding the increase of the output, so natural depletion of fields, which occurs everywhere, in Lithuania, in Norway, in the Baltic Sea, we would like to a large extent, well, substituted with the IME field, which was opened in 2021. So summing up, I assume that the output will be similar to the 2021.
Pani redaktor?
And now another question, Magda Waniszewska. Good afternoon. I would like to come back to the Russian subject. In your yearly report, you have written that you've been preparing to stop the supply from the Russian market. Could you a little bit talk more about that? I believe that we've answered that question. In our annual financial report is the element about the risks related to the conflict and the invasion of Russia in Ukraine that happened on the 24th of February. It means that Lotos Group has no significant exposition to the risks related to our operating workflow. Our activities are not important in that area. When it comes to our supply, obviously, we have a situation when we talk about a completely different geopolitical circumstances. We need to make sure that we can fulfill purchases from other directions. We have 270 types of crude oil in our refining segment. And in 2019, when we had a short crisis, the supply from Russia was stopped. And as we decided at this moment, right now we have no risks related to this aspect. I have another question. It's a general question. It's related to the information of the Total company that published the information about the fact that they would supply refineries through Poland. Is it possible that it will have influence on our Polish national market? Please excuse me, but I have this impression that when we discuss logistics of such idea today, under those circumstances that we have, when we discuss energy safety, whether we talk about Poland or Europe, it can be really interesting and can be analyzed. And I think that it's too early to respond to that question. Thank you very much. Anna Pytniewska-Pap. I would like to ask about the merger. So how the preparation is going? Are you having meetings, discussions with your new partners? When it comes to petrochemical sector, I believe that this question is related more to PKN Orlen, because this company has an agreement with Saudi Aramco, and this agreement is being proceeded right now. I would like to refer to the elements that Lotos Group is a part of. This project is going according to the schedule. There are no delays. We are preparing right now, and as we assumed, at the end of the year, we want to conclude the process. I don't want to give any specific dates, but this is the estimated timeline. And as you know, as we are public companies, we will need to make sure that this schedule and the duties that we have will influence the process. I believe that this month or next month we'll have a very important communication published. We are waiting for the confirmation from the European Commission that the methodology of the remedy actions in the agreements that we have right now is accepted by the European Commission. Then the next step, we will be able to undertake further actions. So right now we're working according to the schedule for this period or phase of the merger. Just to precise, you mean the middle of the year or the end of the year? Yes, of course, in the middle of the year. What I wanted to say is between the second and the third quarter of the year. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? If not, I would like to thank you so much for today's meeting. If there are questions that we haven't answered today, we'll try to reply to later on. Thank you again for being here. We have Nowicki Krzysztof, the head of the Department for Merger and Fusion, Przemysław Krysicki, the head of Investors Relations, and Adam Kasprzyk, Press Office. Thank you very much for the meeting.